You see, you now have something in common with Lady Diana. You have your own prince. What's going on with this group tonight?
Nice crowd.
Is there a wedding or a party or something? Thank you, friend. We have a good show. This is The Tonight Show from, as I say, Burbank, not Hollywood. Burbank, I kid a lot. And rightfully so. It's not, would you say senior citizens? More senior citizens live in Burbank, I guess?
Yeah.
For example, in Burbank, an ambulance is considered a mobile home. Oh, it's so tempting. The colors of that outfit are beyond joking about. I mean,
this isn't unusual. I mean, average colors.
For what? You see, in Southern California, you can wear an outfit like that because Southern California is like nowhere else in the world. For example, right here, across the street. You know, Burbank is across the street, or NBC from Forest Lawn.
Right.
Biggest cemetery, I guess, in the world is right across. Comes in very handy for this network. They have a new service at Forest Lawn now. They will bury your loved one on a tropical island with people of the same age group. It's called Club Dead. What do you... Look, when you pay to get in, you can boo. Freebies, no booing. Interesting item in the paper today. Now, I don't think this was... It was a chain of motels that's starting in this country. It may become law for all motels that a motel desk clerk must be trained in cardiac resuscitation to save the lives of guests, I guess, who have heart attacks. Not only that, but here in Hollywood, on Sunset Boulevard, the Red Cross is training a squad of para-hookers. Only in Southern California. Well, let's go to the news and see if Yasser Arafat is still resisting designer sheets. I like that one. You have to think about it a little bit, but... Oh, just a late news item just came in. The bodies of 3 medflies found in Florida were shipped back to California in a flag-draped matchbox. We ask in lieu of flowers, please send a nice piece of fruit. Well, so there's good news and bad news. The good news is President Reagan has fired all the air controllers. The bad news is Superman won't take passengers. I guess they're all fired?
Yeah.
The president said he was sorry he had to fire the air traffic controllers. That's what he said. Right? Look. Reagan is a strong leader. America wanted a man on horseback. And now that's the way we're going to have to travel. And according to the papers, right in the midst of this, President Reagan is about to take the longest vacation a president has taken in 25 years. I think since Dwight Eisenhower. He is going to spend a month at his ranch in Santa Barbara. Actually, he does not know this yet, but he is going to spend the entire vacation in a holding pattern over Point Magoo until he finds there's no controllers to bring him down. They're just going to circle. Anyway, you'll still see Ronnie while he's on vacation because they're going to run the best of Reagan. They'll show his budget cuts, the tax victory. The president is in for a big surprise in store for him. His entire ranch in Santa Barbara was turned into an oil refinery by James Watt. Barney Wells says... Oh, some interesting Archaeological news. I don't touch on our archaeology too much.
First.
What?
It's a first.
Well, sometimes the age of the jokes, but not necessarily. Up in Calabasas, California, they found a whale fossil that they dated back around 10 million years ago. And they were putting up a housing development in Calabasas, and they found these bones of a whale. Is that exciting? Apparently lived about 10 million years ago. Why are you applauding? The excitement of it is you're overcome with... Now, the way they could tell it was 10 million years old, the way they dated the whale, was they found a fossilized hat in the whale's stomach. Yeah, and in the hat band, the name Jonah. And that's the way. Oh, could have happened. Baseball strike, you know, is over. And you know what the owners are worried about? They are worried because they were on strike for 50 days. The baseball fans may have deserted them and not come back to the games. And, so they are offering all kinds of incentives to get the people to show up. For example, hang on to your ticket stubs if you have them for the Dodgers opening game, because there's a drawing after the game. And the winner gets to spend a night with either Cindy or Steve Garvey. No, they don't. I just made that up. Are they going to have 2 seasons now? This is a split season, isn't it? Yeah, they've already finished 1 season, and they're starting a 2nd season now. Do you realize the Cubs could be the only baseball club in history to lose 2 seasons in 1 year? I mean, that's incredible. Okay, anyway, tonight, good show for you tonight. We have Mr. John Travolta with us tonight. Yes. And one of the most humorous ladies in the entire world, Miss Irma Bombeck, is here. Stay where you are. We'll be right back. Too late. Hello there. If you just joined us, we have Irma Bombeck here tonight, John Travolta, and I've got a few things here. Did you know Fred DeCordova was supposed to be in New York working on a motion picture?
A motion picture. He flew all the way in there for a big role.
And nothing happened.
They didn't shoot.
They're doing a picture, I think, with Robert De Niro and...
Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis, Martin Scorsese, called... What's the name of that?
King of Comedy, sir.
Called the King of Comedy, and Mr. DeCordova went back there to do a part
show producer.
Yeah, spent a couple of days there.
Nothing.
And then nothing happened. They never got to him.
I know.
Does that happen occasionally?
In the movies, but oh, yes. Often. That's the rule. That's not rare.
You have to go back now, Fred?
Yes.
Not till Sunday.
Not till Sunday.
Not till Sunday.
But you'll be back Tuesday.
I'll be here Tuesday.
No,
He's showing up Tuesday.
I want you to know this is not Mr. DeCordova's first acting job. I hold here in my hand
an actual playbill?
An actual playbill. Came from a gentleman by the name of Edmund Marshall. It doesn't say where Mr. Marshall is from. Anyway, he said...
It looks old. It's starting to petrify.
It is. This was also found in that whale at Calabasas. Along with the hat.
What year are we speaking of?
Let me read this whole playbill, and I have to treat this very gingerly. All it says, it was sent to me by a former classmate, and it was addressed only to Ed Marshall. And he became this fellow who wrote as assistant stage manager at Chicago Civic Opera and so forth. But this playbill says, the senior drama. I'm not talking college here, I'm talking high school. The Romantic Age, a comedy in 3 acts by A.A. Milne, right? The Lakeview High School Assembly Hall, under the direction of Miss Ruth Moore. June 9th and 10th at 8 p.m., and I'll give you the date in a moment. The characters in order of their appearance. In other words, apparently Fred worked one night, and then the next night the cast changed, right?
Right.
And it says Jane was played by Ruth Maxwell, Betty Clark, Virginia Bach was in it, Eleanor Bishop, and Gervaisi? Was that Gervais?
Gervais Mallory, John.
Gervais Mallory, of course. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Well, I wasn't around at this date because this was the only high school in the United States at that time. Get your diploma on a rock. Yes, you'll graduate. That was June 9th and 10th of 1927.
Wow.
The man was on stage.
On stage.
Isn't that nice? Did you ever have a copy of this in your scrapbook?
Just that one I sent you.
That's nice.
Save that.
Isn't that nice for one of the first appearances? I got a couple of things here that do odds and
Seems
ends.
like an odds and end night for you.
Didn't I just say I had some odds and ends here?
That's what it seems like.
You don't have to repeat, you know.
I know that.
I know what I'm talking about every second. Now, this is a little grisly, but it was in the Beaumont Enterprise. I guess Beaumont, Texas, I would assume, right? But the headline is Virginia Beach, Virginia. A Texas mechanic told police he mistook his mother-in-law for a large raccoon. When he hacked her to death in her garage last April. Orville, I won't give you the name, told police, however, that after he struck the woman once with a hatchet, he realized it was his wife's 49-year-old mother. Then he hit her again. He said, it is so weird, and was in the paper, but that's got to be a great excuse when you're in front of the jury and say, I thought it was a big raccoon. Charles Nelson Riley was on the show last night, and he brought my attention to a column by Jack Smith, who writes for the Los Angeles Times. And he wrote a column that was very interesting about famous last words. I don't know why I'm on such down material tonight, but about what famous people have said just before they have passed away. Oh, okay. Well, knowing that they were going to. Yes. Have you ever thought of that? If you knew you were going to say in a minute, if you had any last words. For example, Luther Burbank, who was not this, incidentally, Burbank, California is not named for Luther Burbank. Did you know that?
No, it's named for a dentist, I think.
Named for a fellow by the name of David Burbank, who was a dentist who came from somewhere back in the Midwest. Not Luther Burbank. Anyway, this Luther Burbank, the father of the Burbank potato, dying at 77, said, I don't feel good.
A lot of people have copied him.
Yeah. I don't feel good. I knew this gentleman. He used to write for Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. His name was Barney Dean. He was a comedy writer and funny little man. And when he was at the hospital, and apparently at the fateful moment, Barney Dean looked up at Bob Hope and asked, you got any messages for Jolson? Now, that's not bad. That's to the end. The guy was still doing funny remarks. Remember what W.C. Fields said once when he went out to...
On the whole, I'd rather be in Philadelphia.
No.
Well, that's on his gravestone.
It was gravestone. Gene Fowler, the writer, went out to see W.C. Fields, who was not a particularly religious man or didn't pretend to be. And he was reading the Bible when he knew he was very ill and probably was going to die. And Gene Fowler said to W.C. Fields, Bill, what are you doing?
I'm looking for loopholes.
Right? Not bad. I'm looking for loopholes. Anyway, we did a little research on famous last words, and it is true. George Bernard Shaw said, well, at least it will be a new experience. Not a bad way to look at it. Robert Louis Stevenson's final words were, do I look strange? Marie Antoinette said, I beg your pardon, I did not mean it. Last minute there. While Bill Hickok's last words were, take that. Apparently it did not work. Somebody, you remember the famous character actor Edmund Gwynn? Mm-hmm. Edmund Gwynn? He played, his most famous role was in Miracle on 34th Street, where he played Santa Claus. He's a wonderful, jolly actor. A friend was visiting him at his deathbed, and he said, Edmund, dying must be very hard. And Gwen said, not as hard as playing comedy. And was he right there? I know what you'd say.
What is it?
Can I have one for the road?
I hope so.
Tommy Newsom. It's on theory. This is not to say that anybody is leaving as quickly.
No.
We don't wish anybody to. Tommy Newsom will say, will anybody be able to tell the difference? I have mine already written, you know that.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Alexander Higgs. I'll be in charge up there, too. These are just suggested, not that they will say this. Tip O'Neill might say, well, at least there won't be any Republicans up there. Henny Youngman, take my life, please. Look, this is not meant to be. Burt Reynolds. Doc, this will clear up, won't it? Earl Scheib. You know, I met Earl Scheib the other night.
Really?
I'd never met Earl Scheib in my life. Earl Scheib is a famous auto painter out here in the West Coast. Been here for years. The fellow walked up to me in a restaurant the other night. He's got that very distinctive voice. Johnny, I'm Earl Scheib. And I said, in by 9, out by 5. He paints any color. Earl Scheib's last words will be, I'll paint any halo, any color, for $29.95. Famous last words of the Seven Dwarfs. What do you think they would be? Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Marlon Perkins. While Jim works his way down the river, I'm going to play with this completely harmless tarantula. Slim Whitman. Goodbye. Superman's last words. Who ordered the kryptonite hash browns? Okay, I guess that's about enough of that. Speaking of dying words, odds and ends. Anyway, we have Miss Irma Bombeck and John Travolta. We'll be right back after this. Oh, thank you, Doc. We are back. My first guest is a very witty, charming lady. She writes a syndicated column. She's a regular on Good Morning America. She's created a new television series, which she was going to produce, called Maggie, which will be on this fall. Would you welcome Miss Irma Bombeck? How are you?
I'm fine.
Give her the little footstool.
Oh, would you like a little? Just one second. We have all the...
Push a button?
Marnie, there you are.
Is that classy?
See?
Oh, how's that?
Make people a little more comfortable.
Wonderful.
You know, I'm always reluctant to do... We were in a way joking about death, but that's one of the great subjects for humor. And I think probably the reason is because people don't want to think about it, so if you joke about it, maybe it will prolong it. I think Woody Allen once said, they asked him about how he felt about it, because his movies are full of references.
That's right.
Rudy says, I just don't want to be around when it happens. Which said it fairly well. Does it bother you when people talk about... Starting off in a humorous vein tonight,
yeah,
I was on that subject.
This is real. No, I always figured that I would look up at my kids, and as they gathered around my bed, I would look at them and say, if you can't get a haircut, I can't hear you. And that would sort of be my final zing.
Get your final zinger in before you go?
I told you I was sick. I always liked that when,
I told you that. Somebody had that on their tombstone once. I told you I was sick.
It's a real thing. I love that.
Now, you flew in today from, you were in Arizona, because you have a home there, Phoenix. Now, did you have a problem? I really don't know where the strike stands now. How many controllers are out? How many are working?
It wasn't too bad. I was expecting, to sit out there a long time, and I took the needle point, and it never happened. Yeah. But it was really funny. I was sitting around, just sort of thinking and looking at the people who fly. And they are the weirdest people I've ever seen in my life. Because now just stop and consider this for a moment. You go into an airport, you get your ticket. Then, right down the way is a little counter that sells you quick insurance in the case you... Okay. Right. Then, you go through security, and they check you all over to see whether or not you're carrying explosive or guns or knives. Then you go onto your gate, and you get on the plane, and then they tell you what's going to happen in case there's no oxygen. I mean, it's all over, and these little things drop down, and then how the cushion you're sitting on flotates when you have never flotated before in your life. Then you go out on the runway, and here's some air controller up there whom you've never seen before and who is obviously overworked and underpaid and extremely nervous and ready to snap, who tells you that you can take off, and as you sit there, you reach in your pocket and find out how to throw up in 2 languages.
Well,
And we pay for this, and we're on standby for it.
Not a sense of security.
It's insane. No, it's really weird.
I hope they work it out, because if it goes on, it's really going to louse things up pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you have any phobias at all? I guess fear of flying, fear of heights, of course, is acrophobia. Many friends I know have an absolute.
I don't have a fear of flying.
Terrified of flying.
I'm terrified of being in small places.
You have claustrophobia a little bit?
Yeah. I do that. But, I want windows on elevators and things. I mean, I really have to know, that there's some. We went camping once, and that happened to me, where they zipped me up in a tent, and I can't stand that.
With no vision
I can't
outside?
stand that. So my husband put me outside, and when I go camping, I had my electric blanket with me,
Really roughing it.
He kept saying, if you plug that in, you're going to become electrocuted or something. And I'm out there, and it's a mess.
Yeah. Now you write a column. You appear on television. How do you have time? Also, you've got a husband, you've got family, you have children. How are you going to have time to produce a television show on top of that?
Well, when I first thought about it, I thought, I don't see how I can do that. And then I started thinking about the things I had watched. And I remember the old Leave It to Beavers, the family situations. Yeah. And, all that would happen was June would say, "Gee, Wally, where's the beef?" And they'd fall out of their seats, just like they're doing now. And I thought, you can get laughs with lines like that. It's probably a piece of cake. So I thought,
How's the beef? Right. Hi, Dad. What'd you do today?
So,
my favorite was Ozzie and Harriet, only because nobody ever said what Ozzie did. You remember the show? Ozzie would leave the house.
Yeah.
And reappear. Wearing a sweater. I always got the feeling he went into a closet somewhere and then came back home. Yeah. But you never knew. Do you know what was his job?
He had to decide what flavor of ice cream the family was going to have.
That was about it.
And that was it. And they'd sit around and they'd debate on that for, an hour and a half. And
wasn't that wonderful to be able to do a situation comedy where nobody ever knows?
Yeah.
What one of the leads does for a living?
Those were successful, and I think one of the reasons is that they did zero in on just sort of low-key things. They weren't just, real contrived and that's what this is going to be. This woman lives in Dayton, Ohio. You ready for that?
That's Dayton.
She's in Dayton, Ohio. She is happily married to a man with whom she's never had a meaningful conversation her entire life. She has 3 sons, 2 whom you see, and then the other one who is a teenager who went into the bathroom at puberty and has not come out since. And I tell you, it's really a kick for me, because I've only seen the woman I've been writing about, in books, and I've created her from, just whole cloth, and I've had her, in columns and things. But she's never really come alive, or I've had words in her mouth before. And she's a neat lady. She's an irreverent woman. She's not real tickled to death with her kids all the time. They're not a religious experience every minute of the day. And she's a woman who has some compassion. She once saved a diabetic's life by throwing her body in front of a Donna Reed rerun. So she is nice. I like her.
That's funny. Let me do this commercial. We'll come back and talk about commercials.
Love to.
Okay? We'll be right back. We're back. We're talking with Irma Bombeck. John Travolta will be on in a few minutes. Just before we went to our commercials, I said we'd discuss commercials. I was reading a piece the other day. When people are up for commercials, these celebrities, they take what they call a believability factor, whether people at home trust the person. Walter Cronkite, for example, had the most trusted or believability factor. Now, when I watch commercials, very often, most of them know they're actors or actresses.
Right.
As a woman, when you watch television, seeing women who don't look like housewives, is it believable to you?
No, not at all.
I was wondering. They're going the other way now. They're trying to find what they call the really kind of, hi, I'm Marge, I'm from, to make it look more believable. But there used to be all the gorgeous models, and you never believed it at all.
You would think that they have come some distance with this, but they've not at all. I get incensed every time I see the housewife depicted on television, because they still have her sniffing her laundry like she has just seen God.
Yeah.
I mean, this is wonderful.
The cleanliness fetish is very big in this country.
It's really ridiculous. And one of the things one of the commercials I really love now is the one where this woman runs up and she said, Anna Marie Alberghetti, do you still use a salad dressing that's non-greasy? Is that a way to be remembered in your entire life? I mean, it's like saying, you know, Anna Marie Alberghetti, are you still Italian? You know, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the things that they did is they for a while they had housewives, and they wanted to make them feel important. I mean, this woman's ego had to be built up. So what they did, they gave her responsibilities. I mean, this woman alone was responsible for keeping the nasal passages cleared in her children. And she had to build a little fire in his tummy in the morning, you know, with the oatmeal so that it would last him all day long. And that wasn't enough. So then they put in the house. You know, she didn't have yellow wax buildup. I mean, this woman was tremendous. Now they have added her husband. I am now responsible for my husband's success on the corporate ladder. I mean, you know, do you know what I would say if my husband came to me and said, Irma, there's a ring around my collar? I would say, wonderful, it matches the one around your neck.
Cleanliness. This country is too clean.
It's too clean.
Yeah.
They had this one that I just love. This poor guy. He's a commuter, and he comes home and he's absolutely dragged. I mean, the neckties hang out. He's sweat city. He's coming into the door. The door opens, and all this group hops up and says, "Happy birthday! Surprise!" And his wife goes up and says, the breath.
Oh yeah.
The breath. You know, it's just like a wet possum. She said, you know, go back and do something about it. So she takes him back into the room and tries to make him presentable for this group. I mean, if that doesn't take the hats and horns out of it.
I get the feeling you don't think that most husbands relate too well to women and what they have to do at home.
They don't understand us at all. No,
Yeah.
not a possibility. I tell you, I don't
It would
think...
kill all the fun, though, if we ever did. That's
You
half
could
of it.
try a little bit.
Yeah, well,
I
we
mean,
do that, I think.
No, you don't. No, you
Most
don't.
women still baffle men, or at least they baffle me.
I bet you do not even begin to understand how we feel about leftovers, do you? You don't know that. I have a theory that I will bury no garbage before it's time. It's a ritual we go through and you don't understand. You just think that we can take things right off the kitchen table and put them in the garbage and that's it.
No.
Instant garbage. No. The American woman, no one makes garbage better than she does. Just assume that I have 2 tablespoons of peas and a little piece of beef about the size of a coaster.
Right.
Okay? Day 1, I put it in a smaller dish. And I put it in the refrigerator and I say, don't anyone touch this. I'm going to make vegetable soup. Day 2, everyone tries to eat the peas and the beef. And I say, don't touch it. I am making vegetable soup. Day 3, I push it to the rear of the shelf next to the bowl holding the peach pit. Day 5, I take it out of the refrigerator and I pass it around. Does anyone know what this is? Does anyone recognize it? If one person recognizes it, back it goes in the refrigerator. Now, we watch it for another day, and you sort of look at it, and sometimes if it gets a little restless, a little ugly, maybe snaps at the jugular vein a few times, okay, it's almost there.
Right.
On the last day, we take it out, and when it's green and has fur, it is time for burial.
I didn't realize these problems. Deep problems.
Yeah.
Didn't realize these deep personal problems.
Oh, yeah.
We'll take a break. John Travolta will join us in just a moment. We're back. Thank you, Doc. This next gentleman you all know. This young man starred in 2 of the biggest money-making films in history, Saturday Night Fever in Greece, and critic Pauline Kael, who can be kind of tough, said of his recent performance in the movie Blowout, quote, and I quote, I wish you'd said this about me. He has a vibrating physical sensitivity like that of a very young Brando. That's not bad. Would you welcome John Travolta? I'm trying to remember the last time you were on the show or we talked. It's been quite a while, hasn't it?
Well, I met you right before Welcome Back, Kotter.
That's right.
Before it ever aired or anything in the lobby here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Has it been that long?
Yes.
We have not seen each other talk since then?
No, I did the show with David Brenner about 4 years ago, I think, right after Saturday Night Fever.
I've got to start showing up on this show. You weren't bothered, obviously, by the air traffic unless you flew your own plane.
Well, yes, we were totally canceled.
Yeah?
We were third or fourth in line.
Yeah, where were you supposed to fly out of?
Oh, well, I've been traveling a lot, so we were leaving New York, and we were canceled. So we had to go VFR, which is different from
the... This is pilot talk. Visual flight rules rather than
yes, where you
right?
fly below 18,000 feet.
Did you? Somebody told me you got your jet's
yes, sir.
pilot license.
I was very proud of that. It took about 3 weeks, and I went to Texas to do it, and it was a dream, a lifelong dream to be a jet pilot. And I became a captain, and...
Oh, that's not bad. That is not easy. That's very difficult. Ed is a pilot, and I'm a pilot, but I'm not checked out in jets because that takes a lot of time and a lot of training.
Yes. Now, I couldn't get a job with an airline because I'm a dropout, high school dropout, but...
But you're captain of a jet.
But I'm captain of a jet, yes.
Yeah. I saw your picture then. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It was a good picture. You wanted to be an actor, somebody told me. I know you've answered so many questions the last few weeks, but somebody told me when you were just very small.
Well, my family's a theatrical one.
Right.
And so the inspiration was there from early on.
Yeah. Didn't you say your family? On both sides of the family?
Yeah, no, well, not my father. He was more of an athlete. Semi-pro type athlete. And so the inspiration from my mother and my sisters and my brothers were always, it's always evident.
The story is you'd go down, I don't know if that's true, in the basement or the cellar. And
perform.
Parts. Is that right?
Well, my parents were the best audience, of course, early on. And then at 6 or 7, I graduated to inviting the neighborhood in. And then at 12, local theater, and then semi-professional, and then professional.
What was your first part? I was talking about our producer's first part in a high school play. What'd you play? Do you remember?
Frank D. Gilroy play. It was Who'll Save the Plowboy, I think was the name of it. And I played, this kid was an imposter son of the leading man.
Right.
It's a pivotal role.
Yeah. Crucial character. Yeah, everybody always remembers, if they're a performer, their very first appearance. I can remember I played one, well, we talked about playing the bee in the health pageant. That was a disaster. I guess I could tell that story. No.
Sure. Yeah.
There was a health pageant. I played a bee.
Yeah. And what'd you have to do?
My mother had made this costume. It was beautiful.
Did you have any duties?
I remember a lot of the young girls, this is in elementary school, very small, the girls played flowers. And I would flip from... And the idea was you were showing how the bee worked with nature and pollinated the flowers, and it got out of hand at rehearsal. And we canceled the play. Anyway, it's Jimmy Cagney, somebody who I've met once or twice, who everybody who meets falls in love with, you know quite well, and has been kind of instrumental in your career in a way, right, as a friend.
Yes.
How did it come about?
Well, he had been an idol of mine my whole life.
Yeah.
And at 5 and 6 years old, I would try to imitate him from Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah.
And sit in front of the television set and try to mimic him and that kind of thing. And, I'm sure a lot of the young people do that with Grease with me nowadays, but then it was Cagney. And I'd always wanted to meet him, and then one of the opportunities one gets to have in my position would be to meet celebrities like yourself. And
yeah, well, every 4 years we say hello. And I have to limit these, of course.
And I finally met him, and we got on very well, and we've kept up a friendship.
He's a great gentleman, isn't he?
Oh, yes. Never misses a trick.
And he has...
He sees and hears everything that goes on.
Yeah, and he has absolutely no aspirations to be... And even when he was a huge star, he looked at it just as a job. He said, you go to work, you do your lines, you go home. That's all there is to it, right? It's a job like any other job. He never felt like a Hollywood, quote, star.
Yeah, he never gave it the significance, I think, that a lot of actors do.
Somebody told me the story also that your mother used to threaten you if you were misbehaving or something, that Jimmy Cagney would be calling you or something.
Oh, she was quite clever, where she would, if I she wanted me to clean my room or brush my teeth or take out garbage or whatever, she'd just say, Cagney says, she'd pretend she had him on the phone. And she'd say...
And you bought that?
Oh, well, I was 5.
5, yeah, okay.
Buy a lot of things at 5.
Yeah.
And she said, Cagney says, go do this, go do that. And finally I said, does he like me? You know? But...
So she'd want you to get you to do something?
Yes, it worked.
Did you really drop out of high school?
Yes, sir.
Why? Did you just did dislike school and wanted to?
Well, I really knew what I wanted to do, and I had been acting for quite a while already. Right. And living in New Jersey was just a bus ride from New York, Manhattan. Right. And it was one of these things where it was so easy to get started and to do it that I wanted to rush on it. I wanted to get started early. And I'd already worked professionally, so it seemed like the right thing
Make the move at the right time?
My parents were very lenient and open about it, and I admire them for it, actually.
What's been the biggest change in your life since all this fame has come to you? There are certain rewards, of course, financially and all of that, and you're doing what you want to do. But there are also certain... You can't go sometimes out in public when you want to, or things you'd like to do maybe just quietly. Is that the biggest thing of being really recognizable? Well,
it's been this way for about 6 years now, so it all seems part of it. I don't really mind it anymore. Yeah. I enjoy myself, and if I go out, I go out, and if I'm recognized, I sign autographs. It all seems natural. It doesn't seem, it doesn't bother me.
No different at all, huh?
No. Oh, it's different, but I mean, it doesn't seem to, as the years go on, I seem to...
Seems like a normal part of your life now.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
How about with yourself? I mean, do you find it that way, or... No, I meant that seriously. I mean, do you get...
I never go out. I stay here. I have a room in the back, and I never leave. I've not left this building, I think, since 67. 1967. No, I'm teasing. No, I don't mind, really. That's part of it.
I mean, does it seem to get easier as time goes on, or...?
I still get embarrassed by it. It sounds silly to say that. When people come up sometime in a certain situation and ask for an autograph, I feel a little awkward. I don't know why. And I remember when I came out to California, one time when I got out of high school, I asked people for their autographs and felt, you know, not silly about it at all. But I still get a little awkward sometimes.
We'll just exchange autographs.
Okay, sure. Here's mine. Here's yours. Give me your numbers, and I'll give you some old ladies' numbers. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're talking with John Travolta. Movie Blot has a very interesting premise. You play a sound man who goes out and records sounds which they dub into motion pictures, and you're in an unusual situation. You're just, I guess it was by design, you were out just recording what, sounds of traffic, wind, and so forth?
I do bad horror pictures, basically.
Yeah.
He works for this sort of sleazy company.
Right.
And at the time, I think this clip that you have, basically he stumbles